Continue program? Certain parts of life have died without ceremony, like writing letters with pen and paper. People used to do this. They used to stuff the letter into an envelope, put postage on the envelope, and drop it in a mailbox. Nobody does this anymore. The mail still exists, but with so many modes of instantaneous communication, it seems pointless. Nobody writes letters anymore, or paints pictures, or dates. In theory, there's nothing stopping people from doing any of those things. It's just that now there are more efficient ways of going about it all. Why write a letter when I can buzz whatever I have to say instantaneously? Why splash paint on canvas when I can create interactive art, a medium without limits? And why suffer the rejection, uncertainty, and frustration of dating when I can simply call up Central and have all the physical stimulation and emotional satisfaction I want? Friday, on my way to the studio, I spotted a beautiful woman on the transporter platform and briefly thought about asking her out. She was a redhead. I liked the curve of her nose, but didn't say a word to her. A few minutes later, I overheard another woman giggle about a comment her friend made. I liked the sound of her voice, but didn't even try to strike up a conversation. I watched another woman hurry off to make a connection, her tight little ass twitching just the way I like. At the studio, I lost myself in my art. I create worlds that stretch on forever. At first it seems like an old-fashioned piece of canvas, but look closer, and it draws your eye down streets and across landscapes. Whatever you look at comes alive. These creations have made me a wealthy man, but the real reward is seeing a patron standing mesmerized in front of my creations for hours on end. I spent the day in my studio, creating art. In the late afternoon, I caught a transporter home to my efficiency, popped a food capsule, and slipped into my simulation pod. I pulled down the lid of the simulation pod and blinked into the absolute darkness, then said, "Contact Central." Then, sweet buzz crawled through my brain. I instructed Central to run a new program, and moments later it came together. I'm with the redhead, the woman I spotted that morning, looking in her eyes, kissing her. She pulls back and flashes a mischievous smile. I cup her ass. It's small and tight, and feels so very fucking real in my hands. Her name is Patty. I don't know how I know her name, it's just dream knowledge. But that's all just surface. Beneath the surface dwells the feeling that she knows my most intimate secrets and accepts me as I am. "Listen to this," she says, and amazing music fills my world. My heads-up display asks if I want the album, and with a couple of precise blinks, I make the purchase. Patty suggests we go out for integration, and that sounds like a wonderful idea. I come to appreciate these fusion places. We step out of my condo and are instantly on the street in front of the restaurant. We jump over the mundane stuff because this is my dream, enhanced and strengthened by Central. Conversation comes easily and is imbued with flirtatious banter. On some level, I know this is all simulation. I know that incredible sexual release is guaranteed at a nominal charge to my account. But this tidbit of knowledge is hidden from my conscious mind. A hunter thrives on challenge, after all, not on sure things. We eat. The food capsule I swallowed earlier expands in my stomach as I dig in. The scene flickers, once, twice, and then it's all gone. I'm back in the darkness of my simulation pod. The heads-up display asks, "Continue program?" I hate these interruptions. Irritating reminders that my evening is nothing more than an enhanced dream. I snarl and tell Central to keep the program running and give me only the minimum required prompts. Within a second, I'm back with Patty. Only now we're walking hand in hand down a sidewalk in what looks to be Rome. We talk. I tell her that I want to introduce her to my parents. She laughs and kisses me. She kisses this crazy thought away and we keep on walking. And she says, "Let's go to my place." "Your place?" "I have places all over the world." "Huh. Here we go." She leads me along a sidewalk to a stylish bungalow. I am dimly aware that this is a controlled dream. We go inside the bungalow, talking excitedly, finishing one another's sentences and laughing. It's like we've known each other forever, and yet the joy of discovery is endless. Our relationship is infinitely paradoxical. We kiss and make out for a long time. It's the weekend, so we talk and make love all night. I feel a tickling inside my head. My endocrine system is being squeezed like a sponge. Only once are we interrupted. Continue program? I'm in the simulation pod, inside my efficiency. Lines of drool hanging from my mouth. I wipe my face and tell Central to continue the damn program. A moment later, I'm back in the bungalow with my beautiful lady. As morning approaches, I wrap my arms around her from behind and kiss her back. We drift off to sleep together. I awake alone in my simulation pod. The heads-up display is blinking, "Continue program." I ache for Patty, but tell Central to save the program for later. I step out to the kitchen, make coffee and toast. My easel is all set up, but I can't seem to get started. The easel takes up a crazy amount of space in my efficiency. I can afford a bigger place, but there's something about an efficiency that appeals to me. I stare at the canvas for a long time. It has been years since I actually painted. I want to paint, but my hand, holding the brush, stops short of the canvas. Eventually I give up and sip my coffee. After 2 cups, I return to the pod and tell Central to resume the program. Only no bungalow this time. I want Patty right here, in my cramped little efficiency. Seconds later, she steps out of my bathroom, wrapped in a fluffy towel, hair wet from the shower. I'm on the couch. I know she's an amalgam of my daydreams, generated in conjunction with the massive computing power of Central's Cloudware program. I know this. But damn. Do I love her? Sometimes I lose myself in the fantasy. But never for long. I thought that by having Patty appear here in my efficiency, the illusion would fool me just a little more. But I still know what she is. My pod is there. I look inside it, expecting to see myself, but it's empty. I wonder what would happen if I got into this dream pod and asked Central to run another program. Would I have a dream within a dream? Patty interrupts my musings. She flashes a coy smile and heads toward me. I want to take her out. Really take her out, not to Rome or Venice or Moscow, but to my own neighborhood. I want to introduce her to my friends, my flesh and blood friends. And to my parents. I start to tell her this. She crawls on top of me, shedding the fluffy towel and leaning her wet face in for a kiss. I stop her. She pouts, and I feel something tickle the inside of my head. Emotions well up. My heart thunders and my cock stiffens. And I've never wanted anyone like I want Patty right this instant. For a time, I forget that this is all hallucination. I lose myself to it. She is more real than anybody I know. She reaches inside my underwear, grabs me, strokes me. I've never loved anybody the way I love her. She touches my cheek and giggles, and I'm on the verge of exploding. My cock throbs so hard it's painful. Now I remember that this is a dream, a simulation, an hallucination, a fantasy, a flat-out lie. I scream for the program to stop. I throw Patty off me, and she disappears while toppling from the couch.
Continue program?
Continue program. The message blazes in my sight, but I tell Central to go fuck itself. The prompt disappears. I have no emotion left. It's been expended. I masturbate to orgasm. It provides release but little satisfaction. I fall into a deep sleep. Saturday, we met up at a Thai-Japanese fusion place called 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐿. I told Patty I wanted to introduce her to my friends. Soon, very soon, my friends just happened to come by. Not my real friends, just some virtual friends. Who the hell has real friends anymore? At one point, I stopped talking and let the conversation flow around me, like a rushing river swirls and eddies around a rock. I could feel electric fingers poking around my brain, trying to stimulate me into a better mood. It wasn't working. The scene flickered and disappeared, leaving me alone in my pod. A glitch. Annoying, but tolerable. I thought about getting out of the pod and leaving the efficiency. Go out to the real streets and interact with real people. The notion didn't last but a few seconds. Resume program, I muttered. But nix the friends, just me and Patty. 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐿 flashed back into existence. Patty waved goodbye as my friends sauntered off. The evening was still young, and we could do anything at all. Whitewater rafting, skydiving, volcano jumping. I could have 3 hot women doing kinky things to me right there in 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐿. But I'd been down those roads before, and none of it filled the hole I often felt, but rarely acknowledged. Patty held my hand and waited for me to make up my mind. Patty, my dream girl. I said, I want... Patty waited. Central waited. Yes? What do you want? I'm all ears. I want for you... The program flickered. Flickered. It knew what I was about to say. The wait staff and other diners froze in place. The heads-up display warned, "Inadvisable." I didn't care. I said, Patty, I want to introduce you to my folks. She tried to deflect. Okay, but first... No, right here. Right now. But aren't they in Arizona? Now. The heads-up warned me again.
Inadvisable.
But I shooted off with an override. Glitches always arise in the program when you bring in people you know from real life, due to subconscious expectations and all that. I didn't care. I was burned out on extreme sports and orgies. I simply wanted to introduce the woman I loved to my parents. even if the woman I loved happened to be imaginary, and it would only be facsimiles of my parents. I insisted. I felt central interacting with my memories. Patty smiled vacantly from across the table. I'm sure my account was being siphoned. I didn't care. They spotted us from across the restaurant. "There you are," my mother called, making a beeline for our table. My old man grunted and followed. I stood and hugged my mother and shook Dad's hand. They seemed fuzzy and vague. I could not tell how old they were. I introduced them to Patty. Then we all sat and looked at menus and chit-chatted. Patty said, "Your son is quite the artist, but I'm sure you already knew that." My dad made a grunting sound, flagged down the waiter, and ordered bourbon. The waiter said they didn't have bourbon. My dad said to bring anything with alcohol. Mom studied the menu. Patty opened a portfolio that hadn't been there a minute before. She pulled out one of my interactive images and presented it to my folks. The title of the piece was Night Horse. When you looked at it, the shadow of a magnificent Arabian cantered through the narrow streets of a quaint Italian village. "Nice," said my dad, his lip curling in revulsion. "I'm proud." The program flickered, and suddenly I was alone in my pod. After a minute of staring into darkness, I flashed back into the restaurant. My mother and Patty were chattering away. The portfolio was nowhere in sight. "Interactive images, huh?" said my dad. "So that's what you do?" We already had our food, even though I didn't remember ordering. My father was downing sake like it was water. "I suppose the whole world should just bow down and kiss your ass, now that you're some high and mighty big-shot artist, is that it?" Everything went blurry for a few moments. "But you know what?" my dad went on. "All that art, it's all shit. It's like this fancy-ass garbage we're supposed to eat here. I'm proud of you, son. So ashamed of you. You done good, son. Been ashamed of you since the day you were born." He seemed huge. Even as I stood, he loomed over me. Patty said, "You're wrong, Mr. Davis. You're wrong about your son." Her voice came to me from miles away. I reached out, took her hand, pulled her away from the table. "Run off, you little shit," said my dad. My mother was a ghost next to him. I could see right through her as she grinned and waved goodbye. "It was good seeing you again, son," said my dad. "You disgust me." I pulled Patty out of the restaurant and down the street. We ran smack into my old man at the first corner. "Think you're smarter than me, don't you?" "Leave him alone," Patty said. "That's right. Let your little whore fight your battles for you." My fist connected with his face even before I was aware of taking the swing. I hauled Patty along down the sidewalk, past shops and bars and cafes. He was waiting for me at the next corner. "Tell you what," he said. "You say I'm smart. Reading all those books about rockets and shit. Tell you what. I'll smother your little faggot ass. Put my hand over your face, smother you till your brain dies. Then you tell me how smart you are. Tell me how much better you are than me." There was no getting away from him. No more glitches in the program, no more flickers. He was there, in front of me, and if I ran, he'd be at the next corner, and the next, and the next. Beside me, Patty whispered, "You know what to do." I looked at her, and looked at my dad. I could have hit him again or choked him, but that would make me just like him. Instead, I simply looked at him, while he threatened, and swore, and told me what a horrible, pretentious little art faggot I was. After a minute or so, he was more like a cartoon than a human being. Then he was a ghost. Then he was nothing at all. I walked down the sidewalk, hand in hand with the woman I loved. I awoke thinking about pen and paper, and paint and canvas. Those wonderful old things that have died from the world without ceremony. Nobody writes letters or paints anymore. And yet the world would be a poorer place without the written correspondence between Freud and Jung. It would be far less interesting without the paintings of Monet and Picasso and Renoir. I set up my easel and prepared the paint, dipped a brush in the ochre. With interactive art, there are virtually no borders. I was used to a medium without limit. But was Shakespeare limited because he wrote for the stage? And what fun would chess be without rules? I touched brush to canvas for the first time in years. It was awkward and exciting. It took some time. But I began to lose myself in the process. A certain freedom can be found in limitation. Somebody knocked on my door. Nobody ever knocks on my door. Who would? That's a thing of the past. Like writing letters and painting pictures. And yet, somebody was knocking. It was Sunday morning. Who could it be? My parents? Hardly. Friends? No, friends don't visit each other, not anymore. I went to the door, still in my underwear, and called out, "Who is it?" For an answer, the person knocked again, 3 solid raps. I stared at my door, like I've never seen the damn thing before. Eventually I opened it. It was Patty. Tears ran down her face. "You're real," she said, sniffling and shaking. "I wasn't sure. I thought you were, an hallucination." "No. You're the hallucination. You're not real. I made you up." She shoved past me. I started to stop her, but she dashed off for the bathroom and slammed the door. The sound of muffled cursing followed. "I'll be out of your place in a minute," she shouted, between bouts of foul language. I asked if she was okay. "What do you care? I'm just a fucking image generated at Central. I don't exist, and what we shared was just your perverted fantasy." I heard her kicking the wastebasket in my bathroom before going on. "And what we shared meant nothing." I asked if she was mad. "Mad? No. Just upset. But I'll be out of your life for good. Just give me a second." "What are you upset about?" "Really? Really?" Sounds of violence erupted from my bathroom once again. Then she said, "Hope you don't mind, but I seem to have broken your wastebasket." "Quite all right. I'm sure it deserved whatever you did to it." She stepped out. "Why am I upset?" she said. "Oh, I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with giving myself completely to somebody I just met, only to be tossed out like garbage come morning. I thought you were just a program. And yet, here I am in the flesh." I told her to turn around. She glared, but did as I asked. "Your butt is different, pig. No, I mean, what I saw last night wasn't you. You weren't here." "But I was. Not physically, but we connected through Central, through the ether. Our fantasies must have matched up just enough for us to bridge the gap, or something like that." "So, you're real? But with a big, fat old ass." "I didn't say that. It's actually hotter than the simulation version of you." "Should be. I'm a vegan and teach yoga twice a week." "You look amazing in person," I told her, blatantly scoping out her firm breasts. "But more important than looks, what we shared was real. Imagine that. Dating a real person. Regular, old-fashioned boy-meets-girl love story. That's not what you want, is it? I didn't say that. You're starting to repeat yourself. Stop telling me what you didn't say and what you don't want. Tell me what you do want. You want me to leave? No. You want me to stay? You want that? A real girl who beats up wastebaskets and has been known to whine? I opened my mouth to speak, but she snapped, "Stop! Don't do that." Do what? Give me a reflexive answer. An answer that feels right in the moment but isn't necessarily the truth. Think about it. First, I'll sit here on your couch sulking while you mull things over. So, I mulled. A real relationship with an actual human being. Why would I want such a thing when I could have complete physical and emotional satisfaction with an endless parade of virtual women, and all without the messiness of reality? I could have the perks without the head games, temper tantrums, and conversational lulls of a real relationship. I had been in a real relationship before, back when people still did that sort of thing. Sometimes she drove me fucking crazy. Other times I drove her fucking crazy, but we usually moved past that, and our bond grew as a result. It wasn't all amazing conversations deep into the night, followed by toe-curling sex. But at least it was real. Sometimes it was more like a crackling flame in the fireplace than a blazing wildfire, and yet it was good. It had roots that grew deep into our souls. The relationship was profound in ways that no computer program could even hint at. I could have that again. I turned toward her, and she must have seen the decision in my eyes because she smiled. She stood, and we leaned toward each other. Our heads kind of bumped and our noses brushed together. Our first real-life kiss was awkward and wonderful. She giggled, and the sound wasn't like the hallucination version of her. It was better. She nibbled on my ear. I don't think I've ever been so happy. It was so comfortable, so exciting, and so real. "So," she cooed, her warm breath tickling my neck. "Continue program?"
Thank you for tuning in to tonight's episode of Fright Night Radio. If you enjoyed our story, please give us a thumbs up. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you enjoy a frightful new tale every Friday night. Pleasant dreams.